Are you ready to learn about some of the grids of humanity that you have been using to establish and build your sense of self? That is a massive question. The first part of it is, are you ready to learn? Let's say, for the sake of this video, yes. About the grids of humanity. Let's talk about that. What are the grids of humanity? And have you been using some of them to establish your sense of self? Okay. If you can imagine that everything on Earth, every plant, every molecule, every thought, every system, every breath, every morphic field, every human interaction is all in some way interconnected with something else. Now, I'm not going to say that it's all connected as one. It's not. But it is interconnected with at least something else. Most of what people have derived their sense of self, their sense of purpose, their sense of direction, what they value, comes from the grids of humanity, which are ancient, so old, so old. So what are some examples of the grids of humanity? Well, you're going to have some collective fields. You can look in any area of life and you will find collective fields in religion, in education, in family systems, in how people relate with each other, in how they go about establishing hierarchies, in the methods that we use to obtain our food. On and on and on and on. It's how we, the royal, gigantic we, live. Now, obviously, there isn't just one set of structures within the grids of humanity. There are millions. And each person is going to be, or has been, interwoven with just some of them. Some people have more grids of humanity that they have established themselves in than others. Okay, so what are some examples of what is inside or can constitute a grid in humanity? Well, we're looking at morphic fields. We're looking at family systems. We're looking at fields of genetics. Okay, the information for what determines the expression of genes first exists in the field of frequencies. Okay, what else are in grids of humanity? We're going to have different layers of consciousness. There are innumerable types of consciousness. You're going to have different codes. Okay, within all of that are codes and consciousness. Codes and consciousness are the basis of everything in life. So we are born, we are made, our bodies are made, we grow, we become established within the physical, emotional, mental, relational, cultural, familial environments that we're in. And we use the makings, the materials that are available to us to amalgamate ourselves until we become a hodgepodge of self. And now we are not just a self, we are an architecture. We are a complex of structures of self, most of which is hindering you from establishing greater and greater degrees of homeostasis. What ends up happening is that we adapt. And what a beautiful thing it is to be able to do, to adapt to our environment. We adapt to the people that we are surrounded with. We adapt to the air. We adapt to what's in our bodies. We adapt to our own thinking. Why do we adapt? So that we are in as least amount of conflict as possible, least amount of friction as possible. Because if our system reacts to the food, reacts to the pollen, reacts to the noise, reacts to the people, reacts to the smell, reacts to the programming, reacts to the collective environment, if it reacts, it's very costly. We expend a great amount of resource in reacting to something that your system perceives as foreign. So instead, the system works very, very hard to adapt. It's a beautiful process. However, if your system is making all this effort and using all these resources to adapt to something that's not actually good for you, you are now what I call maladapting. Means adapting to lower stages of homeostasis, to a point where your system has now accustomed itself to varying degrees of suboptimal health, physical, emotional, mental, environmental, relational health, and then calling it normal. Now, when the system adapts, when it has established its sense of self, in order to maintain a continuity of the sequences of self, body, and programming, and calls it normal, and has established biological, emotional, mental, habitual pathways in order to maintain the continuity of these pathways, and then you go to change any of them, it will literally feel like you are going against yourself. Okay? And so what we need are new stages of homeostasis to calibrate towards. What does it mean to calibrate towards? Calibration is when we have a standard that we consider optimal and that you adjust what you're doing, what your system's doing, responding, believing, behaving, how it digests, how it perceives, towards something that is a healthier, optimal way. That's calibrating. We calibrate towards something that is the optimal. So what we need are calibration points that we can allow our system the freedom to unwind from the detrimental structures of the grids of humanity and towards higher degrees of homeostasis. Okay? But we need models and blueprints and higher fields of intelligence to guide our genetics, our biology, our mind, our heart, our perceptions, and our habits towards. Without these calibration guides, these calibration points, there's nothing to calibrate towards, and we maintain the status quo of the homeostasis that our system has established it towards, or it's expending a great deal of energy resisting getting worse. So where do these higher calibrations come from? They come from higher intelligence. What does that mean? Well, first let's look at how do we learn to do anything? Can you think of a single thing that you know how to do that you didn't learn from somewhere? Okay, now we'll categorize instincts for a moment because no one teaches you instincts. It's hardwired into some of your biology. Okay, instincts aside, everything else, did you find it? Could you find anything that you weren't shown, modeled, shown, or somehow you learned? Okay. If you were to interview anyone who has excelled in their field, art, science, math, technology, sports, literature, music, you will find that they became inspired, they had ahas, somehow new information clicked in them and they went, I know something I didn't know before. It is impossible for a system, a human living sentient system, to obtain new information from a closed system. It cannot derive new from closed loops. It has to have open source information, open to the source of new information. Okay, there are countless sources of new information. So what you want is to deliberately direct your mind and your heart to be open to new information from benevolence, from source of life. Now, I am not anthropomorphizing benevolence. I am not deifying anything. I am saying that there are gradients of data that are good for you, bad for you, terrible for you, amazing for you. And it's going to be different for everyone. Because what I need right now is going to be different from what you need right now. What do I need for my heart to become bigger, stronger, and more capable of being stable in an unstable environment, to be loving in an environment that might be harsh? What's it going to take for my heart to evolve to that? Well, it's going to have to learn. It's going to have to heal, and it's going to have to grow. And that information has to come from somewhere. Right? So the way that I see it are gradients of higher and higher fields. Higher meaning more coherent, more intelligent, more organized, more loving, and more capable of meeting you and what you need right now. I call that rapport. Okay? Life in all of its fields can and is profoundly intelligent in its ability to meet someone in their creative reachings or their intent for growth and for learning and for coming up with answers and better ways of doing things. The field of information will meet you there. And the only thing that I advise about that is that you are only sourcing the information that you need from places that are a match for your upliftment, for adding value to your evolution, for enhancing your life force, for helping to clean and clear your mind and your body. This information exists. My intention for making this video is for you to know that it is possible for you to get what you need. Now, that being said, if you have struggles or symptoms or you're suffering or you're having a hard time, those things did not happen all at once. They took likely years and years of tens of hundreds of thousands of decisions and actions and maladaptations to your environment and to even your own way of thinking. Which means that it's going to take a lot of unwinding, a lot of new decisions, a lot of new actions that you make and take in order to establish greater degrees of coherence and higher homeostasis. It's going to mean a lot of letting go of different things. It's going to mean transformation. And it's going to mean that you are willing to receive new information about you, about what you need, about the solutions that you're looking for. And those answers, that information is going to come almost entirely in small, ordinary moments. Don't eat that food. Say yes to this person. Say no to this person. Go to bed now. It's time to get out of bed now. It's time to work on your business. It's time to stop working on your business, right? This is not about being told what to do. This is the intelligence within your system that is always on. It's always looking to calibrate towards what's right for you. And when you practice pausing and allowing yourself to be to recognize the directionality in any given moment, it becomes easier and easier and easier and easier. And moment by moment, you grow and you evolve and you change, and you say yes to your yes and you say no to your no. And the more that you do that, the more you are telling yourself that you want to come alive, that you want to add value to life on earth, that you are more and more ready to let go of the identities of the lower codes and lower structures. So let's talk about some of the identities of lower codes and lower structures. There are thousands of them, more than that, tens of thousands. But let's give some examples. So let's talk about love, okay? On its own, with no lower codes interfering with the experience of love, love happens as we allow ourselves to love and be loved. Love is profoundly uplifting. It is always available. It is always a positive, beneficial, healing, transformational, wonderful, I don't even want to call it a thing. Love is love, and it's always available. Okay? So why don't we know this? Why are we afraid of it sometimes? Right? Because there are lower codes and structures that have been conflated, have been blended and amalgamated in the meaning-making machines of the grids of humanity. Love hurts. Love takes time. Love needs a person to behave a certain way. And we have so many mixed messages about, can we have love? Can I have access to it? Does another person have it? Are they the source of it? Am I the source of it? And then you think, I can withhold love. I can give love. Love can be withheld. No, it can't. Love exists entirely independent of whether or not we give it or take it or receive it. It is a constant. It's always available. Okay? There are tens of thousands of mix-ups about wonderful things that we have confused with other things. Money, for example. Money is time. No, it's not. You know, I trade my value for my money. It's just an odd concept, and I understand that that's what capitalism is built on, and there are certain rules to play in the structures of humanity. You can't live well on earth without money. So then the goal is not to deny having or wanting money. It's to figure out how to do it in a way that doesn't compromise you or life on earth. And part of the way we do that is we sort through all of the ridiculous idioms, colloquialisms, cliches, these lower coded messages that taint and distort an otherwise largely neutral topic. So if you were to sit down right now and make a list of 5 or more of the most important areas of your life, let's say love, money, relationship, health, spirituality, self-development, family, and you were to write out the first things that come to mind, the assumptions. Let your irrational mind populate these lists. Say, what are the assumptions that I have about this topic? And just go, unedited. Love is, money is, family requires, my health is. Okay? and give your mind a chance to really do a brain dump. Just kind of just let it out. So you're going to want to do at least 5 or 6 and just until it feels complete. Okay? Make those lists and study them. I'm pretty sure what you're going to find on those lists are some very confusing messages. Okay? Because let's take a topic that I think, I don't want to speak on behalf of the general population, but I will say a lot or almost all of the people I've spoken to would say family is, you don't question it. Is family's loyalty. Blood is thicker than water. I'm there for my family no matter what, right? I'm the black sheep. I'm the one who provides the care. I'm the one, they're the ones, family is. I think what you might see when you look at that list are subjects, cliches, and assumptions that seem to be neutral, normal. They seem to be fine. But if you pick 1 or 2 of those on that list and you write assumptions about those, what are the assumptions that you have about blood is thicker than water, or family is everything, or we're there for each other no matter what, or I'm the provider? If you pick 1 of those and you list out 5 assumptions that you have about those, I think you're going to find that's where you're going to start to see where you have been established your sense of self and identity in grids of humanity without knowing it. And that's when you might start to question what is actually true for you and right for you. Okay, and we don't need to make monumental changes in our lives in order to become a better versions of ourselves. But what we do need to do is become more brave. Look at the assumptions that you have running inside of you, because they're going to lead you to the deeper understanding of the codes and detrimental structures that you have unintentionally built yourself into and as. And as you do that, I can almost guarantee you that it will feel a mixture of relief and a bit jarring, because you're going to go, whoa, I've been living as this. And it's at that moment, all you need to do is pause. Let that in. And if you decide in the moment that you want to be different, you want to be healthier, you don't want to be blindly loyal or have blind faith or be an automaton in a system of beliefs and practices, that you want to have a better way, that's the moment in the pause that you reach for higher intelligence and you say, what else is right for me? And you'll know if it's right for you when, within the first 20 seconds of asking that question, if something in you feels relieved. Not amped, not anxious, not powerful, not righteous, but calm. And maybe you nod and you go, I can see what I was doing, and I can see what I need. And it's simple. And when you let that new information in, benevolence, which again are the forces of life that are uplifting, life enhancing, life force adding, are going to come to you to invest in your new choices, because that's what we need. We need our good choices to be invested in. We need our hearts to be invested in with care and love and attention and clear, unbiased feedback. And that's what new information is. It says, here you are, here's what's needed, how can I help? So I hope you found this video to be useful. If you have comments or questions, I do have a monthly Zoom call that I'm starting the first week of August, the first Friday of August 2026. And I will post the time and date in the link below. I'm going to be using that time to answer people's questions. It's not a webinar, it's not a sales pitch. It's going to be a live Zoom call every month to engage with people because I want to hear from people. I want to talk to real people, I want to listen to real people, and I want to answer your questions. And so that's what I'm here to do. Thank you.